But I got 6 coins here, 6 cryptos. And I did a little bit of research because I was actually curious myself, because I think in order to have some conviction over Bitcoin and to really understand the differences between the cryptos, you have to understand them. And you have to know what's going on and what's not going on. So I got Litecoin, I got Ethereum, I got Solana, I got Chainlink, I got Caspa, and I got Theta. Theta is a new addition here. I didn't write it down, but I know Theta pretty well. And so what I'm hoping throughout this next 10 or 15 minutes is that I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on any of these cryptocurrencies. I haven't spent enough time, probably like I have with Bitcoin, learning the ins and outs of them. I'm just giving a very basic overview of the pros and the cons of each of these. So what I'm hoping for is that if there is somebody in the chat who either has a pro or a con to discuss about the crypto that I'm talking about at the time, please put it in the chat and we'll talk about it. So let's start with our favorite one, Ethereum. It's going to be a quick one. So we got the pros of Ethereum. And once again, this is not financial advice. Do not listen to anything that I say. Do not invest in any of these cryptocurrencies without doing your actual research yourself. These are very basic overview points here. But Ethereum, pros, you have the ability to do smart contracts. You have the ability to create decentralized applications, the Web 0.3. And you have the ability to create your own token. If you have a company, if you're a person or you're a criminal, you have the ability to create your own token and use the Ethereum network to send it back and forth. But it's created with using the ERC20 token, I believe. That's where they all kind of spawn from, the mother asshole of all casino coins. So those are the pros. It's also been around for a long time, so most people are familiar with it, which is a big deal in a network environment like crypto. The cons. They recently switched from proof of work, which is a big aspect of Bitcoin, proof of work, into proof of stake. It's incredibly expensive to operate on the Ethereum network. If you've ever tried sending cryptos or Ethereum, you have to have gas with it. Similar to like Bitcoin transaction fees in a different way, but the fees are very high. I remember sending like $20 worth of Shiba Inu coin to my Atomic wallet back in 2020, and it cost me about $50 US to send on Ethereum. I really specifically remember that because that was the last day I ever used Ethereum. Centralized. So there's a very small group of people. The Ethereum Foundation, I think, is responsible for a lot of the coins, the issuance of new potential coins. Ethereum, we know who the CEO is, Vitalik Buterin. Looks like an alien, very weird dude. Not somebody I could get behind myself. They're not very secure. They've actually been hacked 33 times so far. They've been hacked many times, and it's the most hacked blockchain out there, Ethereum. There's lots of competition, which we're about to talk about next in terms of the smart contracts, the dApps, and the world of Ethereum. And there's an unknown supply limit. So with Bitcoin, we know that there's going to be 21. A lot of those coins are already lost. There's a fixed supply, but with Ethereum, there's not a fixed supply. There's an unknown limit. No limit on the coins. And they've been forked. The Ethereum Foundation, the developers have changed the roadmap of Ethereum several times now. So that's Ethereum. You could guess what I'm going to rank these afterwards. I'm going to go 1 to 6 as the second best crypto asset, but you can probably guess where Ethereum is going to stand in this. So the next one here is Litecoin. And this one actually has a lot more pros than cons on my list anyways. So the first pro I would say is that it's a lot faster than Bitcoin. The blocks come in every 2.5 minutes, which I was actually unaware of until looking into this. So with Bitcoin, it's on average every 10 minutes. With Litecoin, on average every 2.5 minutes. So the blocks come in faster. There's a fixed supply, which is a good thing. They have 84 million, which is 4 times the amount of Bitcoin. Bigger blocks, which means you can put more transactions in there. Think about every transaction as just data. That's all it is. Because as the very intelligent news anchor said there, you can't physically hold Bitcoin or Litecoin. So it's just data. It's moving data back and forth. It's a giant ledger, keeping track of everybody's who they owe, what they have, keeping track of that. So bigger blocks means more transactions, means faster. It's cheaper to send. If you've ever sent Litecoin, it's very inexpensive to send, which is honestly pretty good, especially if you're going to be using it for day-to-day stuff. Similar to like a Lightning network, I think, except probably even cheaper than that with Bitcoin, with sats. And they have Mimblewimble, which is a very private aspect of Litecoin. And I know that there are some Litecoin fans in the house today, so feel free to chime in here whenever you'd like to. A couple more pros is that there's less energy to mine it. And I actually put a little arrow going over to the cons because that could actually be a negative as well. Less energy. The beauty of Bitcoin is that it requires so much energy to mine. And if you understand the importance of a sound money, it's worth the energy, in my opinion. The more energy that's put into it, the more secure it is. So it's a pro that it's less energy to mine, but I think it's also a con that it requires less energy to mine. And another pro is more active development, which again, I have a arrow going over to cons as well, because the more actively you develop something, the more you change things, the more you have the ability to screw things up. And there's a lot of people out there who think that Bitcoin is perfect as it is and should never be changed. And I'm not in that party necessarily, but I do believe that if you have something that works, don't fuck with it. Cons of Litecoin: a little bit less secure. The bigger blocks, there is I don't know if it's necessarily less secure. I think that it probably is, just because it takes the blocks are bigger. There's more transactions going through there. They come in faster. I think that there's more ability there and more prone to attack than Bitcoin would be. Litecoin's also never gone down. I think it went down for like 5 minutes 10 years ago, but the Litecoin network itself, I don't think has ever gone down. So again, less energy to mine. I would say that that's a con. And the development, the ability to change it, more people working on it, or more active development, I guess, not more people working on it, but they're trying to make it better. So Litecoin was used as kind of like a test net, I think, within Bitcoin to make sure that everything's running properly without the high costs of Bitcoin. So that's Litecoin. Honestly, not a bad option there. And I think it's going to get a lot of traction in some of the Asian countries in the coming decade. But let's move on. So the next one here is Solana. Kokuro Minis says Litecoin is kind of a test net for Bitcoin. Yeah, exactly. And a con for all these is no finite supply. So Litecoin actually has a finite supply of 84 million. And a few of these other ones do too. And Litecoin has a halving. Very similar to Bitcoin. Very similar to Bitcoin. Solana. Faster. So Solana, I would say, is very comparable to like an Ethereum. They would be competitors, I believe. So they got faster transactions than Ethereum. They use a consensus mechanism called proof of history, which I didn't spend a whole lot of time looking at. But from what I understand, it's better than proof of stake. So a little bit lower fees and gas in terms of comparing to Ethereum. It's more decentralized, and it's been built to scale. The cons of Solana is that there's fewer users, a little bit less known, more vulnerable to attacks, has a CEO, just like Ethereum does, has a CEO, and there's no max supply of Solana. Rick says, when I've done crypto giveaways, it's always been Litecoin. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And that's why I think that there will be some adoption of Litecoin in the coming years, just because it is so easy to use, cheap to send, secure, and very similar to Bitcoin. The next one here, Chainlink. So this one I actually learned some things with. It has decentralized oracles. So there hasn't been a whole lot of hacks because it's more decentralized. Chainlink actually takes real world data and connects smart contracts to the weather, to stock prices, to sensor readings. And that's kind of like its use case there. So it takes real world data and connects it to smart contracts, which is actually pretty cool. It's very interoperable, connects to Ethereum, the BNB chain, and the Polkadot network. and it's fully customizable. So if you have something that you want to real world data that you want to put into a smart contract, you can actually use Chainlink to do that. And they also have a max supply, which is a good thing, of 1 billion tokens. The cons of this one is that they have Chainlink Labs. So they're centralized. They have a company, there's a CEO, we know who they are. There's more active development, and it's more costly to use, I think, than some of the other options in the space, because the Chainlink tokens are pretty expensive, and I believe you have to pay a certain amount of link tokens to set things up there. So it's a little bit more expensive. The next one here is Caspa. Okay, let me check on the Zap.stream chat quickly here. So RJ says, Con, no ability to verify the decentralization of validators. One person can run multiple. With Bitcoin, the mining difficulty is proof of competition. So which one was that for, RJ? Was that for Litecoin? Adrian says, important is the amount of coin that has been pre-mined as well. Yes. So I don't think that Caspa had a pre-mine. I don't think that Litecoin had one, and Bitcoin definitely didn't have one. So RJ was talking about ETH there. No ability to verify the decentralization of validators. One person can run multiple. Another part of that too, and I think that this is worth talking about, is that with Ethereum, if you're wanting to mine Ethereum, you have to have like 20 Ethereum, I think, to be able to do it, which is the proof of stake there. So you have to have like, what was it, 3,000 US times, let's say, even 10 Ethereum. I don't know what it is. I think it changes all the time. But so you need $30,000 there to even contribute to the Ethereum network. With Bitcoin, you could have one of these little guys. You could spend $200 on a BitAxe, and you can start contributing, decentralizing the network, and earning sats. So that's really the beauty of Bitcoin, is that anybody can do it. Anybody with a miner and an internet connection can contribute to the network with a chance of either mining Bitcoin using the solo option or the pool option. But you don't have to have $30,000. You don't need to be X amount of Bitcoin in order to mine. You can just hook up to your power source and start mining Bitcoin. 32 ETH for a validator. Holy. So you need 90,000 US dollars just to run an ETH validator. So no wonder it's so centralized, honestly. HFLM says Solana has frequent network crashes. Yes, I've heard that. And Anton says all of these alts will go to zero against Bitcoin, just a matter of time. I agree. So Caspa here, this is the next one we're going to talk about. This has been a pretty hot one. This is kind of like the 2024 bull run replacement to Bitcoin, they're calling it. So I will give Caspa some credit here. It's very similar to Bitcoin. It's more private, I think, than Bitcoin. I forget what they use for that, but it's more private. It's decentralized, just like Bitcoin. It has a fixed supply, just like Bitcoin, a much higher supply, but that doesn't really matter. It's the fixed part that really matters. Very low fees compared to Bitcoin, and it's interoperable with both Ethereum and Bitcoin. So those are the pros. And it seems like there's some crazy Caspa people out there. So, you know, a community is a big part of any cryptocurrency. You need the network there. So the biggest con, obviously, we talked about this yesterday as well, but they have an active founder. We know who, even though they use the proof of work or something similar to proof of work, which means that the founder really has no ability to control it, it's still having an active founder who knows who they know, people know who it is, and has the ability to influence and manipulate things. I think that that's a big problem. And that's what Bitcoin doesn't have with Satoshi. Another con with Caspa is that nobody knows what it is. If you asked any person on the street if they've heard of Bitcoin before, good or bad, I'd say probably 99% of people have heard of Bitcoin, unless you're living in like a jungle. But with Caspa, I would guess that it would be like the opposite of that. Like maybe 1% of people have heard of Caspa. So no one knows what it is. Network is a big part of crypto. So it also has very low liquidity. So Bitcoin is one of the best parts of Bitcoin is that it has a global demand for it, global liquidity. So if you want to use it for collateral, if you want to use it for lending, if you want to buy and sell with it, there's always somebody out there who's going to buy your Bitcoin. That might not be the case with Kaspa. It's not overly accessible. There's tons of Bitcoin exchanges, Bitcoin buy and sell, both non-KYC and KYC. With Kaspa, it's very hard to find how to buy some. There's not a whole lot of exchanges that have it listed. And, you know, being a smaller network like Kaspa is, it's more susceptible to attack, even though similar to Bitcoin in its early days, when there wasn't a whole lot of people mining it, it was more susceptible to attack, which now, if you look at the hash rate of Bitcoin, it's almost impossible for somebody to attack it. They can try. And for a short period of time, they probably can do some damage to the Bitcoin network. But over the long term, I don't think that they can. But with Kaspa, I think because the network's still so small, that is more susceptible to attack. So the last one here is Theta. And I don't have a list for this. I'm just going to freeball this off the top of my head. So I'm hoping somebody in the chat can help me if I need. Let me take a sip of coffee here. I'm talking too much. So Theta, I would say the pros is that there is a real use case for it. They have 6 or 7 patents with the US government on different decentralized web applications, the mesh network itself, the NFTs, the video streaming, the edge cloud computing. So they do have significant amount of, they've been at this for a long time, and they've been doing things the right way in terms of with the government stuff. They didn't have a pre-mine, which is a pro. It's also very cheap to send Theta. You have to have T-Fuel, which is kind of a pain in the ass, but it's very cheap to send back and forth using T-Fuel. It's fairly decentralized, I would say. There is a fixed supply. I forget the amount. I think it's 1 billion coins. It's off the top of my head, but I think there's a fixed supply of 1 billion Theta tokens. The cons for me is very similar to these other ones. We know who the founders are. There's a board of directors. There's an actual corporation called Theta Labs, and they have a lot of the coins. Another pro that I missed there with Theta is they have big investors in the space. So Sony, who just announced that they are buying or have purchased a crypto exchange, Sony. And so they're a big investor in Theta. You have Samsung. You have one of the Hollywood studios or Hollywood agencies. Who else is in there? Samsung, Sony. I don't know. There's some big ones. Sorry, I forgot to write Theta down, but this is, I think you're getting the point here. The cons, once again, the founder, the Theta Labs, the team there, you're just putting your faith in other people, essentially. And Theta Labs has a bunch of coins that they could essentially offload at any time and cause a huge crash to the market. Similar to Kaspa, nobody really knows what Theta is, honestly. If you ask, there's probably less people that know about Theta than Kaspa, which means that there's a low liquidity. It's on most exchanges, so if you want to sell it or buy it, you probably can. But that's what I would say the cons are to Theta. So let's get to the point here. And so I did, on this last page here, I got a list of, in order, the best coins after Bitcoin, the second best. And so, actually, let me find it here. So the second best crypto asset, I'm gonna let Michael Saylor say it.
Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay. What's the second best? There is no second best. There's no second best crypto asset. There's a crypto asset. It's called Bitcoin, right? Right? There's no second best. Okay. But take all your money, buy Bitcoin. Then take all your time, figure out how to borrow more money to buy more Bitcoin. Then take all your time and figure out what you can sell to buy Bitcoin. And if you absolutely love the thing that you don't want to sell it, go mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin with it. And if you've got a business that you love because your family works for the business, it's in your family for 37 years, and you can't bear to sell it, mortgage it, finance it, and convert the proceeds into the hardest money on earth, which is Bitcoin.
So there you go. There's my analysis. There's my conclusion. that there is no second best crypto asset. There's just simply not. And I look at these and I really believe that some of these will have a use case in the future. I really believe that some of these will be around in 10 years from now, especially something like Link. And Link and Theta, I think, would be my top picks in terms of being around. But in terms of if you have any sort of capital right now, if you have any sort of money right now, it does not go into any of those other ones. It doesn't. It goes into Bitcoin. There is no second best crypto asset today. And I don't think that there ever will be. You might have some use case, whether that's for your business, your personal life, whatever that may be, for these different cryptocurrencies in the future. But today, all of this capital is flowing into Bitcoin. Fucking alarm system's going off. Somebody's breaking in. Arnie's on it. So I want to share two things here from that I saw yesterday, just to kind of to go a little bit further into this. And I know we're way over time here today, but at the same time, whatever. So let me find this. This is actually it's in my gallery because I saved it. This is a tweet that I saw yesterday on Twitter, and this is kind of goes along with everything that I'm talking about here. But this is from Crypto Bitlord on Twitter. And they tweeted yesterday saying, I think I'm ultimately done with crypto now. It's given me depression, a drug addiction, and a serious gambling problem. You can't honestly say this shit is good for you. That's going to get annoying. I'm going to shut the door. Sorry, Arnie. So think about that. And then I posted on Nostr, I said, have you ever heard a Bitcoiner say that before? That it's given me depression, a drug addiction, and a serious gambling problem. Have you ever heard a Bitcoiner speak like that? And for me, I haven't. I see nothing but the exact opposite in the Bitcoin community. I see a lot of hope. I see a lot of long-term thinking, a lot of people building together with one common goal at the end of it. And with crypto, it seems like most people are just buying these cryptocurrencies to turn a quick gain, very short-term thinking. Whereas Bitcoin is the exact opposite of that. I think that if you're active in the Bitcoin community, people are working towards the same thing. They're trying to improve every aspect of their lives, not just get rich in a week from now and sell it back into fiat. That's not the point of Bitcoin. So not only is there different use cases that are better and worse than Bitcoin, I think just the whole mindset behind Bitcoin and how they call it a low time preference in the biz. But it seems like, to me, it's just much more of a long-term focus than any of these altcoins are. Everybody either wants to buy altcoins for a quick turn back into fiat to buy whatever stupid shit's on the market this week, Apple Pro goggles or something like that. But with Bitcoin, it's more of a long-term focus. It's more for your grandkids than it is for you. And another shout out to RJ over here on Nostr today. He said something similar to this. So he said, lately I've been thinking about the sheer short-sightedness of people in general. I see a lot of folks shitting on the narrative of Bitcoin because of the store of value, because it's down about 17% this month. But they don't mention it's up 87% on the year. Our society has been largely structured to force the plebs into thinking day by day, week by week, maybe month to month if they're lucky. Very few think in yearly timeframes. And to take it a step further, even fewer think in Bitcoin cycles, which is 4 years. So same kind of thing. I just think that fiat, no matter what the use case is, no matter what the labs that are building it is very short-term thinking. Everything is, and it kind of coincides with the fiat world in a lot of ways. And at the same time, as Michael Saylor said there, he said that spend all of your time, all of your energy doing things to earn more Bitcoin. Because when you're worrying about these altcoins, when you're watching the charts, when you're trying to figure out the best time to buy, the best time to sell, you're wasting time there. You're wasting very precious time. And the only thing more scarce than Bitcoin in life is time. So instead of doing that, instead of trying to game the system and instead of trying to get rich overnight and spending so much time doing that. Put that time into yourself, into your business, into your relationships, into your family. Invest your time properly because it's very scarce, and you don't need to be wasting your time trying to find the next Bitcoin when Bitcoin already exists.